Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, viewers, and thank you for being with us this morning. It is your favorite morning show, the Daybreak on Trust Television, coming to you directly from the Trust TV studio here in Abuja, the federal capital. And today is Monday, the 5th of September. It is another month, and happy new month to all of you watching us this morning. And today I am with me my co-uncle Usaina after freshening up. Thank you for joining us this morning also.
Good morning, everyone, and good morning, Abdulaziz.
Yeah, good morning. It's good to have you back.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was indeed needed.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I hope everything has been going on well since I left.
No, of course, we missed you, and of course, I'm sure our viewers also, but of course, you know, colleagues have stepped in, and it's been going on well. And it's good to once in a while recharge, because we're all humans.
I expect nothing less. It's good to be back.
Exactly.
By the way.
So you are
welcome.
Thank
you so much for joining us. I'm Dashan Husseina Usman.
You are welcome, Usaina. And let's go into the news headlines this morning. 9 dead, 10 injured in Abuja road crash.
3 killed in Benue village attack.
Commonwealth gold winner Onwokocha suspended for doping.
And we'll begin with the details of the stories. The Federal Road Safety Corps said 9 persons have been confirmed dead, while 10 others were injured in a fatal crash along Yongoji-Abaji Road of the Federal Capital Territory. According to a statement signed by Corps Public Education Officer BC Kazim, the crash involved a Toyota Hiace bus with vehicle registration number KTG 450KQ and Howo-Sino truck along Yongoji-Abaji Road at about 6:05 a.m. on Saturday. He said the bus was coming from Osun State and heading to Katsina State, but unfortunately crashed into a stationary trailer. According to Kazim, the acting Corps Marshal Dauda Abiu said the crashes resulted from dangerous overtaking and eventual loss of control.
3 villagers have been killed in their homes at, say, Nombera in Guma local government area of Benue State. According to reports, the incident, which happened at the weekend, has thrown affected rural community near Eliwata in Guma into mourning. Waku Christopher, a security secretary of Guma local government, told Daily Trust correspondent via the telephone that 3 people were killed by suspected armed herders at their homes in, say, Gumera at 4:20 p.m. He said the attackers invaded the villages suddenly and started unleashing mayhem on the inhabitants. Chairman of Guma local government Mike Oba confirmed the incident on the telephone, noting that it was true that the area was attacked and 3 persons were killed. However, the police public relations officer, PPRO of the state, SP Catherine Anene, did not respond to calls or the message sent to her telephone over the incident.
And finally, Nigerian sprinter Nzubechi Grace Nwokocha has been provisionally suspended for the use of banned substances by the Athletics Integrity Unit. Nwokocha, 21, ran the anchor leg in Birmingham last month as Nigeria beat England and Jamaica to take gold. She was part of the winning quartet of Tobi Amusan, Favor Ofili and Rose Chukuma, who won gold in the 4x100 meter relay at this year's Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. The quartet had set a new African record of 42.10 seconds to win what was Nigeria's 11th gold medal in Birmingham, and it was a historic moment for the country at the Games. The 21-year-old Nwokocha, a multiple-time national champion over 100 meters, has a personal best time in the 100 meter of 10.97 seconds set at the last World Championship in Eugene, Oregon, USA. She also ran a personal best of 22.44 seconds in the 200 meters.
Moving on, candidates seeking political offices for the 2023 election must come up with development agenda that will address the needs of the people. At a one-day colloquium held at Mumbai House, Kano Jigawa Professionals Forum expressed a resolve that achieving sustainable development in line with sustainable master plan in the 2 states will no longer be negotiable. Trust TV's correspondent Idris Jibrin reports.
Organized by Kano and Jigawa Professional Forum, this one-day colloquium drawn its participants from all the political parties across Kano State with the aim to set a 10-year strategic development plan ahead of the 2023 governorship, national and state assemblies elections. According to the forum, many states in northern Nigeria lack the provision of robust and sustainable development agenda to guide incoming administration as roadmap for enhancing successful takeoff. Hence, the need to remind these political party candidates on the expectations of the electorates.
This colloquium is intended, among others, to serve as a veritable platform for collaboratively generating ideas on identifying and agreeing on the critical issues facing the two states and their solutions.
Presenters from various professional work streams covering health, education, governance, infrastructure and logistics, technology, legal and regulatory, as well as media and communications, each provided guiding documents by which strategic development could be achieved across Kano states.
One important thing, health is on concurrent list. The federal government should do its bit here. The state government and the local government, there should be harmony and synergy. What we saw during the pandemic is an open disconnect between the federal institution and the state institution. Now, we should enhance this relationship to ensure that we have established a proper referral center.
The way we, Mboko, try to reform the system is to say, integrate it into the Western education system. And that's the one thing that the people who patronize it don't want. Because they have a choice. They see a primary school, they take their child instead to a Quranic school. Okay, so my suggestion is talk to them, reform the system, modernize it, don't westernize it.
For the candidates, a forum like this will significantly encourage political office holders in overcoming the socio-economic challenges of their people by providing a sustainable development in all aspects of life.
For me, I will cherish this and the reports that have been given to me. I will make sure that I go through it, and I'm urging all the participants for us to please go through these submissions and see the submissions, and by the time what Allah has destined on us happen, we should try and do the best out of it.
At the end of this colloquium, all these political party candidates will be expected to be fully informed about the developmental needs of the people for achieving sustainable development across the states. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
With a growing population and poor environmental management, almost every part of Makurdi town is home to one indiscriminate refuse dump. The water channels meant for drainages are not spared in this unruly behavior. It was discovered in most of the dumps visited that the activities mostly happen at night. The report.
The people seen around the refuse dumps in the daytime are scavengers for items who are not guilty of any crime. Those who spoke to a reporter said the government has not taken any decisive role in evacuating the dump sites. Most of the dumps have been around for decades.
To not wait for the government to get the environment need for them, because for the sake of your health alone, you are supposed to make sure your environment is kept clean. You make sure your dumps, your wastes are being dumped where they are supposed to be dumped, and make sure there are no empty containers to hold water or stagnant water around.
Those whose houses or places of businesses are impacted negatively by these mountains of refuse say there is little they can do to address the act. This is because government has not provided a policy direction or alternatives to manage them.
And the reason why people dump refuge at odd places is simply because the government have not supplied the necessary facilities for them to be dumping their refuge inside. And most of the times the people are at fault as well, because they go around dumping refuge at night because they know that in the day people will caution them because of what they have done.
Some of the residents say it is toxic to live close to a refuse dump, as there are quite a number of diseases that can be contacted by air or water pollution emanating from the dumps.
it is hazard to human health, because the people living around these places they dump refuge might end up picking one or two different diseases into their system, especially children that hawks around. Many of these children, they might pick things on this refuge and eat, which is not also good for their health.
Some people have stream as their own source of water to drink. So if these refuse are drawn to these streams, it might lead to people having issues of diarrhea or cholera.
What is worrisome is the fact that in all the sites visited, it appears no community has a plan in place to curtail the menace. Some have accepted the dumps as part of their neighborhood, even as there are no conscious efforts by the government to clear them.
Refuse everywhere. Do you see that?
I can't even begin to imagine the health implications that it will cost those community
residents. Exactly, and that is why we are having all this flood. Last week on this program we discussed with the head of an environmental agency here about how this refuse, especially these polythene bags, because
very dangerous.
it is not degradable. So it constitutes most of this issue of blocked drainages and causes flood, and as you said also the health implications regarding malaria, other things, and all that, cholera. And of course, it's not unique to Makurdi.
I think proper refuse dump sites should actually be provided for, what do you call it, for the communities.
Exactly.
And also,
especially in all the city centers.
Exactly, it's very, very important. Government needs to really work hard on this.
No,
if not,
definitely.
Imagine the flood when the rains come and then all the dirt,
are washed away into the drainage. Exactly.
Back into
the drainages. Exactly.
Not even the drainages. Back into the community. And
exactly, because
these people walk in the water, these people drink the water, use it for one
thing. That's what I also wanted to
to
say, because a lot of these communities also take their, drinking water from some of these open sources.
Yeah, exactly, and all that. So,
wow, I think something really needs to be done, and of course, it's a collective responsibility, not only by government but also by the community, by the individuals, because we have to keep our environment clean and healthy. So moving on, stakeholders in Nigeria's justice system have advocated a review of plea bargain that is meant to ensure a restorative and quick justice dispensation. The view of the section in the Economy and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has given lifeline to corrupt public officers. Respondents told Daily Trust Shafiu Suleiman that the legislation has done more harm than good to Nigerians. The report.
The concept of plea bargain, which was borrowed from the United States Criminal Justice Manual into the EFCC Act, is to fast-track adjudication of justice, save cost and time of litigation. But since its application in Nigeria's criminal justice system, experts say it has rather provided a window for corrupt public office holders to shortchange the country and its citizens in mind-boggling corruption scandals.
The latest case of the Accountant General. What financial system in the world will allow somebody to take over 100 billion out of its coffers? In the UK, every pound, a single pound cannot be missing in the British financial system without being detected. But you can see in our country, just a group of not up to 10 people who syndicate themselves as criminals took out over 100 billion in our financial system, and all of them now are being granted plea bargain.
The kind of plea bargain we are seeing in Nigeria is basically to encourage more corruption and more corrupt people to loot the public treasury, because when you steal $10 million through plea bargain, you will just return maybe $1 or $2 million. Then the rest of the money is like clean.
Plea bargain, though alien to Nigeria's laws, creates a lacuna in an effort to tackle the nation's #1 enemy, corruption, and provides a lifeline for those cornering billions of taxpayers' money into private use. But the question is there a remedy for this misnomer?
if you like. We have actually been advocating for judicial reform in Nigeria. Administrative justice system needs to be totally overhauled in this country because it's not serving the interests of Nigeria and Nigerians. It is serving those criminals who have perpetrated crime against humanity in Nigeria.
And that is why they should quicken the process of repealing that section of the act, so that people who are found complicit or guilty of offenses like this can be able to face the law and the wrath of the law, and so that other people, especially the younger generation, will see that we are not grandstanding criminals.
Lawyers say the onus now lies with the nation's legislative arm of government to summon the will and take a bold step to repeal the section in the EFCC Act for a genuine and robust anti-corruption crusade. Shapir Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Buying drugs without doctor's prescription is tantamount to risking one's life. A health expert gave this hint in Bauchi while commenting on why people prefer going to pharmacies than hospitals nowadays. Trust TV's Adamu Imam files this report.
Dr. Abdulsalam Abdulaziz is a medical doctor, and he says health workers in Nigeria should insist on standards by giving drugs only when prescribed by doctors.
In Nigeria, people have a way of going about getting even controlled drugs out of prescription. So basically, what we just perhaps want to advise the health workers is for both pharmaceutical outlets and hospitals. We should people should strictly work based on prescription, and all controlled drugs should try to be controlled, as the word implies, controlled drugs.
He also explains some reasons why people prefer pharmacy than hospitals in most cases.
Time factor is actually crucial. The patient waiting period sometimes affects patronage in the hospital. So when you go to pharmaceutical outlet, you could easily get prescription, maybe over-the-counter drugs or chemist, you understand? But when you come to the hospital, you would rather wait and follow queue. So I think the patient waiting period, especially when it is long, could affect the patronage.
Ahmed Aliu, a pharmacist, explained how business of selling drugs works and differentiate them with other vendors.
The pharmacy store only contain drugs, prescribed drugs and even non-prescribed drugs. While when we talking of patent medicine store, they are the local store found around in our local areas. Normally they are selling drugs, even the non-prescribed drugs.
Meanwhile, Bauchi residents also share their views on the matter.
So for me, it's better to walk into any other chemist and buy my drugs whenever I'm in need of, drugs or medicine. Number two,
going to hospital, to me, is more preferable than going to chemist, in the sense that if you go to hospital, you'll meet an expert that will diagnose, give you the results. Maybe they will take you to lab, test you, find out the result, and tell you the medication.
If somebody goes to the hospital, instead of taking 50 minutes, it's going to take maybe 2 hours. So maybe that is why I prefer going to the chemist than going to the hospitals, as far as I'm concerned.
Health expert added that people have the right of choice on issues affecting them, though not without risks, but doing what is right, especially on health ground, is worthwhile. Adam Imam, Trust TV News, Bauchi.
Showcasing prospective couples to the world is a trend that has come to stay among prospective couples in the country. Tagged pre-wedding photo shoot, the art of taking pictures and uploading them on social media has become so popular that a wedding is considered not to have started without the pictures. Ibrahim Ismail speaks to some prospective couples in Gombe on why they shoot pre-wedding pictures and piles in this report.
Ibrahim Thompson and Emanuela Matthew will become husband and wife soon as the two lovers prepare to tie the nuptial. Pre-wedding pictures are part of the favorite activities set up by the couple.
So generally it's like an invitation It's like a publicity telling the whole world that you are about to get married. Because the pre-wedding pic comes in different models. Sometimes you see coming with an invitation card. It comes normally with invitation card. Yes, publicizing and telling the world that you're about to get married. And then it's another way of expressing your happiness, you know, to the general public.
Is an expression of love, really, and we can use it to keep a memory of our love life. We can use it also, especially, for example, our relatives that are far, they might not be able to attend the wedding. So we can use it to send them, and they want to see the picture of my husband, so I can send the pictures for them so that they can see it. And we can use it to decorate our walls in our room. We can use it for memory.
The couple's photographer said pre-wedding pictures are very important among Nigerian couples, adding that women love it more than men.
Because I have seen my friend wedding picture, I want my own to be like that, I want my own to be talk of the town, you know, that kind of thing. That's why nowadays, if you ask a girl whether she would like to take pre-wedding pictures, she will tell, what? I must have my pre-wedding. In fact, there are some scenarios whereby a couple had a kind of misunderstanding because of pre-wedding. You know, men, we don't really like snapping, honestly. I'm a photographer. I can tell you in a month how many men used to come and snap pictures, but women come every now and then. If they saw new clothes, they will snap. They play their head, they will snap. Whenever they are happy, they will snap, understand?
The prospective couple said they were very careful in their mode of dressing during photo sessions to reflect the culture of their community.
Okay, yes, in terms of dressing, we should just try and dress decent, so that we don't know where the pre-wedding pictures will go.
Do you think if they say, don't worry, don't do pre-wedding pictures, how would you feel?
No, I will not agree. I must do it because it has been my favorite part of the wedding. I cannot just afford to miss that part.
I only use 4 clothes, 2 babariga, 1 kaftan and 1 suit. Also herself, so her body was not exposed, my body was not exposed, so it was moderate, it was decent, that you can share and send to any person without complaint.
Photographer Maxwell said some women have attached value to pre-wedding pictures more than any other activity in the lineup of event for a wedding ceremony. From Gombe, Ibrahim Ismail reporting for Trust TV.
It's quite interesting, isn't it? You know, for every, but you know, I actually agree with what, you know, the groom-to-be said, you know, about it being some sort of publicity
exactly.
for people to know. Do you understand? Instead of, you know, posting the wedding invitation, because a lot of people don't actually like to read, no matter how much you
and more so because it also comes usually as a reminder, you know, even if you know about the wedding coming up, but when you see this, and your pictures travel far.
Exactly, and you know,
and evokes a lot of
when you're a cute couple, you know, who doesn't want that?
Well, it's a trend that has come to stay, as as they say, because now most weddings aren't considered really done without these kind of pictures and all that.
True that.
Yeah,
all right, with this, we'll take a quick breather, and when we return, it'll be time for the newspaper review.
But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
Welcome back, and if you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust TV, and it's now time for us to look at front pages of today's newspapers. And we have in the studio Mukhtar Suleiman, a public affairs analyst and also communication expert, who will be joining us to shed light on some of the stories that dominate the front pages today. And we'll start with today's edition of Daily Trust newspapers, which says, the major headline of this of Daily Trust today is military kills 5 ISWAP commanders over 200 terrorists in Borno. And it has riders, they are using Northeast as training ground, according to a source. We will continue to fight them, Nigerian Air Force. And insurgents attacked Borno mosque, killed Imam, 3 others. This is the lead story on today's Daily Trust, and it continues on page 4. Just below that, 2 dead, several trapped as 7-story building collapses in Lagos. And then beside the pictorial, 2023 anxiety trails APC's delay in unveiling campaign council members. Story on page 38. 14 die, 1,179 cases recorded as yellow fever hits 35 states and FCT. Lastly, despite increased revenue by manufacturers, cement price still over 4,000 per 50 kg. Story on page 27. These are the stories on the front page of today's Daily Trust newspaper.
All right, with that, we move on to the Nation newspaper. The lead story here says NNPCL petrol to sell for 462 naira per litre without subsidy. And then we have riders that says Corporation Defense 68 million per litre daily consumption claim. Dares Customs CG ready for forensic audit. We also have PDP crisis, hope dims for reconciliation. At the top of the page there, IG to US government, no threat to next year's election. ASU raises 7-man panel to counter smear campaign. We also have 15-year jail term awaits land grabbers in Oyo. Banks cut work hours to save operational costs. And then 2 died, dozens trapped as 7-story building collapses in Lagos. We also have Nigeria seeks debt for climate swap deal to get relief on $100.06 billion, says presidency. And these are some of the stories on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
Well, up next is the Punch newspaper. And the main story is about Abakari. NDLEA files 24 charges, seizes 14 mega assets. Agency uncovers shopping malls, others owned by ex-IRT commander. Kari Deputy Ubwa fails to declare 100 million life insurance policy. And then, of course, below this is a pictorial showing the recent building collapse in Lagos. 2 dead, others trapped in Lagos building collapse. And on the top of the page, contract termination, FG to pay foreign firm $496 million. Sorry, on page 28. Then below that, Ogun, Lagos, Rivers communities battle hazardous waste. Story on page 2. And then NNPC defends 68 million litre daily consumption, backs forensic audit. Atiku, no threat to Tinubu, Obi, social media creation. Onanuga, story on page 7. And then by the Punch, by the newspaper's masthead, subscribers fail to use 98.75 million SIMs report. And then Discos lose 543 billion power generation drops by Discos, I'm taking that again. Discos lose 443 billion power generation drops by 642.4 megawatts. Story on page 27. These are stories on the front page of the Punch this morning.
All right, up next is Leadership newspaper. At the top of the page there, we are open for forensic audit of fuel supply, says NNPC. Senate gets bill to amend Section 84, ban same-faith tickets. Just below the masthead there, we have Customs evaluation policy fueling smuggling, motor dealers cry out. And we also have the lead story that says as 2023 campaign begins in 23 days, Nigerians seek competence above party, religious, ethnic considerations. We have writers under that same story. Say next president must be competent, healthy, and of good character. We want leaders who can get this nation out of the woods. No threat to next year's elections, IGP assures Nigerians. We have more stories. Again, immigration emerges best performing agency. Kenya's Supreme Court to rule on presidential election dispute today, and heirs holding appoints Ndubisi Osadolo as board members. And these are some of the stories on leadership.
Okay, next is the This Day newspaper. On top of the page, Nigeria's average daily petrol supply in 68 million liters, NNPC clarifies. Replies Custom DG, says company ready for forensic audit. Analyst held 20-year crude supply deal with Dangote refinery. Northern Group call for petroleum subsidy removal. FG, 14 years old, Ajakuta Steel dispute finally resolved. Story on page 8. And then below the masthead, Obi's crowdfunding portals to open next week, Utomi reveals. And then Atiku, September heralds dawn of Nigeria's freedom from APC stronghold, says decentralizing campaign structure is only way to win in 2023. Reaffirms 40% commitment to women, youth in the cabinet. Stakeholders weigh options on PDP crisis. The big story on today's This Day is Tinubu, we need not to worry about PDP, we are not equals. And it has riders says opposition party shouldn't exist any longer. Our presidency will industrialize Nigeria, Shetima boasts. PDP fires back, asks APC candidate to address name, age, education. Uzodinma declares Igbo will produce president when they find peace with nation. And these are the stories on the front page of This Day newspaper.
We'll take the final paper, which is Blueprint newspaper, and we have just at the top of the page there, developer of collapsed Lagos building defied authority tries. Commissioner. We also have says developer hostile to regulatory agency, police on the trail of culprits. We also have presidency, that's the lead story there. Senate mulls a ban on same-faith ticket, and we have writers that say amendment to Section 84 of 2022 Electoral Act on the same card. Odds still favor Tinubu Shetima ticket for 2023, says Smart Adeyemi. Stop blaming your woes on APC, Okechukwu tells Ayu. PDP won't implode. Crisis family affair, Atiku associates reply critics. Gunmen attack Enugu chapter during meeting. And you can find details of that story on page 6. And below the story is pictorial of a rescue operation at the site of the collapsed 7-story building at Obaidowu Oniru Street in Lagos on Sunday. We have more stories here. FG to disburse $350 million cabotage fund to indigenous ship owners. We also have gunmen kill NSCDC operative, abduct 14 others in Ekiti, Ondo. How debt for climate swap offers billion-dollar relief to Nigeria. Africa's debt burden, says Oshibajo. We also have investors lose 283 billion naira August amid insecurity, low purchasing power. And on the footnotes there, flood destroys 3,000 houses, farmlands in Jigawa. 9 die, 10 injured in Abuja auto crash. NIS wins MDA's award for August CG Lords personnel. POS transactions increased to 8.3 trillion naira. And mutilated body of Tescom chief found in Akure. And these are the stories on the Blueprint newspaper.
Okay, well, let's now look at some of these stories. And of course, as we said earlier, we have in the studio Mukhtar Suleiman, a public affairs commentator in the studio with us. Mukhtar, if you look at today's Daily Trust and of course quite a number of other papers reported about the feats recorded by our troops in the northeast on the insurgents, members of Boko Haram insurgency groups. And, in the past, we are used to a lull in operations during the rains. Are we having a game changer? Are we having a new vigor in the military? What is the significance of what has happened over the weekend?
Good morning.
Good morning, thank you.
I think I'm not a security person, but I'll speak as an ordinary citizen. A change in strategy is good. If the military is now doing things that are not precedented, that are not expected, people don't expect them to do it, so that is actually the best time for you to do it. That's when you actually hit your enemies the most. So taking that action, especially with the rain, despite going into that situation the way it is, I think that's why they actually achieved what they did, and which is a very good thing. ISWAP is more deadlier than Boko Haram, if anything that we've learned over the past few months. And I think it's best that they keep up the pace, and we applaud them for it.
Okay, but despite the achievement, you're still getting pockets of attacks, you know, here and there. And the latest has been insurgents attacking Borno Mosque, killing Imam and 3 others.
I think it's normal. It's a fight that we fight. The attack, we attack, the attack, we attack. It's sad and sickening and painful as well. That's the way it has deteriorated to where the ordinary civilians are now casualty of a crisis that otherwise does not affect them. That they shouldn't really have a say in it, but then again, it's the situation of the country as it is. I would remember that there was this, I said this here before, there was this UNDP report I read some years ago where the report says less than 9.28% or 9.2 something percent of Boko Haram members joined Boko Haram because of religion. The most of them joined because they were aggrieved about the way the military handled the situation at the start. They wanted revenge. Some of them were poor. Boko Haram promised better payment and better life, and that's why most of them actually joined the forces. So you talk to them and then they tell you, oh, they were aggrieved. Nigeria offended them. They wanted to revenge. But then you're taking your anger on me. I was also offended. If I also pick up arms and started up my own this thing, it doesn't make sense. I think there are constitutional ways to handle most of these grievances. There's a grievance mechanism as stipulated by the Constitution that you should actually use to express yourself whenever you feel like you've been shortchanged as a citizen. I think we need to adopt that more often, as opposed to using that as an excuse to join the violent group.
Okay, issues of
okay, well, just
building.
Before you go ahead, we'll actually like to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
Okay, welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. We still have in the studio Mukhtar Suleiman, who is also, helping us this morning to analyze some of the issues on the front pages of Nigerian newspapers as part of our breakfast show, the Daybreak on Trust Television. Mukhtar, we were talking about, I wanted to ask about this issue of building collapse. Almost all the papers today have this story on the front page. To persons killed and many others trapped after a collapse of 7-story building in Lagos. And this is becoming one too many. Remember only a few days earlier, maybe less than a week, in Kano there was something like this which also killed some, 2 persons also. What's responsible for this?
I think one thing I've noticed is during rainy season we usually have these issues. With the weather, it tends to test the integrity of structures that have actually been constructed. We have an agency that is responsible for checkmating most of these issues, just to make sure that there's actually standards. And then, to the best of my knowledge, how a building construction comes up is the person who wants to build it has an idea, gives it to an architect structures it out, gives it to an engineer monitors the builder who is going to be building, ensuring that there's integrity in the structure. So if we're having this continuously, it means somebody is not doing their job very well. And if somebody is not doing their job very well, it actually tampers with it puts people at risk, let me put it that way. And the government needs to do more and look into it. We had this issue, we always have it in Lagos almost every year, every rainy season, where buildings begin to collapse when the rain starts. So I think that needs to really be checked, because it's becoming it's becoming more and more issues. A building structure, especially structures as big as that, is a matter of public trust, because a lot of people are going to go in there and come out. You're not going to build it for just yourself. So because of that, you have to also put into consideration the life of the people that are going to come through that building, even your own personal life. And even if the building should fall today, who else will be affected? That's not even in the building, that has nothing, that doesn't concern them. So this is actually a public matter that the government needs to look into to ensure that buildings are actually up to standard.
All right, let's move on to this story. It's on health, by the way. Talking about 14 died, 1,179 cases recorded as yellow fever hits 35 states and the FCT. First it was COVID, and then monkeypox, and now we're seeing a yellow fever, being endemic in Nigeria. What's your take on this?
Yellow fever has actually been a thing it's almost as old as malaria in Nigeria.
Yeah, but it hasn't been this
it's bad. Yeah. But I don't know why it's actually an endemic right now. I've not really read in-depth into it. I know I saw the headline, but I just passed through, which was very wrong. But I think there's another thing that Nigerians do that is quite unfair. Most of us travel a lot. Everybody has a yellow fever card, but very few people actually took the yellow fever shot. And which is very, very wrong. I think the medical practitioners need to also look into that and ensure that before you issue out the card, please give the person the shot, so that the essence of it is so that we are safe as a people. So it doesn't kill you, it just protects you. I don't see any reason why it should be an issue. I know a lot of people made a fuss about the COVID vaccine. Most of us are vaccinated. I'm still waiting for the day I'll turn into a mutated robot. But medical practitioners need to do more to ensure that people actually take these shots and they take it very seriously.
So, but what issue of our health preparedness, if you look at in the face of all these epidemics and public health challenges, as Hussein was talking about, monkeypox, rotavirus now, so many other things, and even COVID is going and coming. It's not like today it lulls and then it resurges and all that. How do you assess our readiness to confront some of these problems, especially also looking at a global level of partnership of working together to ensure that humanity overcomes some of these challenges?
In Nigeria specifically, I think we need to do more first infrastructurally. If we can do more infrastructurally, we will be able to handle most of, because we're not short of talent. Now we're having doctors leaving the country. Last week we saw a report where they said 1 doctor to 5,000 persons now, which is which is too much. That's too much of a burden. And if you look at those doctors, that is 1 doctor to 5,000. If you ask them, it's because they are still not, they want to leave, but they don't know how to leave.
Or they're making plans.
Yeah, or they're making plans as well. So it's really, really sickening. And if we can do, I strongly believe that if we can do a lot about the infrastructural base of our health system, we need to do more in terms of the welfare of the health workers. We can actually do way much more. We can actually achieve way much more in ensuring that we're actually proactive and we are at the vanguard of ensuring that most of these epidemics don't go out of hand.
Okay, now let's look at the story on the front page of the Punch, where it's saying that the federal government is to pay a foreign company, a foreign firm, $496 million over termination of contract. This is also something that is so much recurring. We have had cases of P&ID, we have had cases of other cases. Recently, there was one in the news about I'm trying to remember, that recently made the headlines, which was also, involves the federal government paying, the Azura Power, if you remember. Why do we every now and then end up in cases like this, where it seems that maybe some individuals just insert clauses that indemnify the country unnecessarily?
I've not really read the story, so I don't really know the whole of it. So I might not want to talk too much about it because I'm not in the full picture of it. But one thing I'm.
That's why my question is generic about cases like this, in which you see that the government is like being put in a very tight indemnity corner.
Yeah.
Like
just to add to what he said, take a look at foreign airlines, and the aviation sector crisis as well. The government owing these foreign airlines, a lot of money, putting them in that position.
Yeah, I think before I go into the airline issue, that of the contract, I think one thing I've noticed is that Nigerians in general, we tend to not read contracts very religiously. Like sometimes I want to draft a contract, maybe I have an organization, I want to draft a contract for my staff. I just call my friend, Afa, do you have any contract that let me use it for? And we did not study it, we did not get the intent and most of it. And the ambiguity in any contract favors the party that did not draft it. So if I draft a contract for you and there's an ambiguous clause, it's how you translate it at the end of it. I might translate it with intent, but the law does not cover intent. It covers what is there. So if you put etc is not something. If it's not clear, at the end of the day, I can actually use that as a loophole. Being someone who, I signed a lot of contracts for consultancy works and even my day-to-day job, and we see this play out way too often. I think one of the first things I usually do whenever I have a contract is I read it carefully to see the loophole, just in case the organization wants to exploit me. That's one of the few, and I think a lot of people, I learned that from a friend of mine in the US, that said that's the same thing he actually does. I'm not intending to do anything wrong, I'm just saying I have to protect my interest as well, because most times an organization is usually more loyal to its mission and vision than the individual staff, depending on the nature of the culture of that organization. And I think that's usually been the situation in Nigeria. Actually, our politicians, even laws, will go and copy and paste contracts. I'm sure that contract, whoever it is that terminated the contract to start with, did not read most of the indemnity clauses, did not read most of the exit clauses of the contract, and that's why we actually put ourselves in these situations. That of the airlines is a very precarious one. It's very broad. It has so many layers and layers and layers. Adi Serika has not really done a very good job in the airline sector, honestly. We expected so much from him. I thought he was going to do very well, owing to the fact that he had really good experience in the sector, but it has been from one tussle to another. I booked a flight to Kano for this week. I booked it last week and I paid about 75,000. I remember when that was a business class ticket for return, for a return ticket. It's just, the sector is so weird, and now even a lot, I think Delta Airlines in the US is planning to pull out by next month, by the end of the month, although Emirates has resumed again after the last the payment that they were giving, but there's still layers and layers and layers. Every day they peel off a new layer, and then we see what's happening there. Dubai is having this. We're having issues with the Dubai government. It's just, I don't know. It's just too much.
Okay, all right. So let's move on to the Nation newspaper, and there's this very interesting, story here that made rounds, during the weekend, talking about banks cutting work hours to save operational costs.
Yes.
At first it was, the Kaduna State government cutting work days, and then you have now banks cutting work hours. That's besides or aside a lot of people losing, employment. The unemployment rate is actually way high now, and then even if the banks decide to cut this, work hours, a lot of people would actually lose their jobs as well. Let's share your thoughts on this.
Cutting work hours for a banking sector is I'm sure it's a very tough decision for them to have made, because you can imagine how much banks make on a daily basis, and they need those revenue streams for them to actually be sustainable. When I saw the news earlier in the weekend, I knew that it has really gotten very bad, because if there's any sector who overworks their staff and does not want them to leave the office, it's the bank. I have a banker as a cousin who goes to work from 6 o'clock in the morning, doesn't return sometimes till 10 p.m. So if they've actually come to that conclusion that they need to reduce working hours, then you can actually tell that we didn't expect, we knew it was bad, but it's as if it's been a downward slope ever since. There's this slippery slope effect that's been happening ever since. It has been getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's almost getting to that situation where even they don't know what to do to stop it. So everybody's just looking at the ball just going down the hill. So I'm thinking, I'm hoping that it gets better. That's what we can all hope for. We pray that it does get better. But for banks to actually do that, I saw the news.
Really bad.
I said it has really become really bad.
Yeah, so still on the Nation newspaper, if you look at the lead story there, it's talking about NNPC Limited, talking about if we remove subsidy, the petrol will go up to 462 naira per litre. If the government removes subsidy, and corporation depend 68 million per litre daily consumption. And DS Customs CG at the weekend, or was it on last week, the Comptroller General of the Nigerian Customs Service said that the NNPC cannot defend the 68 million daily consumption, 68 million litres that it claims Nigerians consume daily. And I know that this is not the first time that figure is being cautioned. That's one stream of the argument. Then the issue of the subsidy, which is the main lead here, that if subsidy is removed, we will buy petrol at 462. What are your thoughts on this issue of the figure itself, of the consumption figure, and which generated this controversy? And then the second stream of the question is the issue of subsidy. To be or not to be?
Okay, for that of the 68 million litres, but let's assume that that is true, for the sake of argument. Let's say, because NNPC obviously gave us the figure, they should know. In a world where everybody is looking to move away from fossil fuel, burning fossil fuel, we're looking at how we can combat climate change. Nigeria is saying proudly, and they are saying they can defend it, that Nigerians are consuming 68 million litres on a daily basis. Now, I'm going to tie this to the fact, to that of the fuel subsidy. I personally don't have an issue if the government said they want to remove fuel subsidy. I get it. It sounds outrageous, but if you're going to remove the fuel subsidy, ensure that Nigerians do not have to strive to get secondary source of power. That 68 million litres, I don't know the figures, but off the top of my head, I can say more than half of it goes into generating secondary source of power, fueling your mostly fueling your generators. That's what I think most of that money most of those litres go into. So if you can ensure that there's ample primary supply of power, there is a stable power in the country, remove the fuel subsidy. That way we know that people who are going to go and buy fuel at 400 plus are using it for their cars, and cars are somewhat luxury. Ensure that there is adequate internal transport network for people to actually commute from their houses to work or wherever it is that they want to go to, so that people do not have to drive their cars unless they necessarily have to or need to. So that way we know that buying petrol is actually a luxury that you can afford to buy. Then remove the subsidy. That way, the common man is not affected, because most of the common men don't even have cars. They don't even have automobiles. But they have to buy, they have a better pass my neighbor somewhere outside in their houses. So they have to buy petrol for that. So if you can ensure that there's adequate power supply, primary source of power supply, and I don't have to strive to get a secondary source, then go ahead, and because most countries don't have subsidy for fuel, but they've ensured that that does not affect the person who knows that he cannot afford it at the end of the day, which is quite unfair.
All right, so what's your opinion on the story on page 6 on Leadership newspaper that says Senate gets bill to amend Section 84 and also ban same-faith tickets?
Now, I don't know what section of the Section 84 they want to. I feel like, you see, I love, whoever drafted the Electoral Act, I need to meet that person and hug him. Honestly, I was so happy at the strategic way it was placed. This is why. if you look at the part that actually affects them the most, which is Section 8412, that's the part that actually affects them the most. The person did not lead with it in Section 84. And the person did not even lead with it in the opening sentence of Section 8412. And like I've established earlier, like I've said earlier, Nigerians hardly read in detail whenever they are going through something.
Browse through.
They just browse through. I'm sure that most of those politicians did not study that thing very carefully before they assented it, which is a good thing. I've always, so
they were ambushed.
Yeah, this sort of backs up my argument where I said the only way Nigeria will be better is by mistake. Someday we'll just keep making mistakes that will just be leading to better the betterment of the systems. I'm really happy about it. I don't know what part of Section 84 they want to amend, but I'm glad. I hope that they don't get the backing to actually do it. As for banning of
same faith
ticket, I don't think that should be a thing. I've always argued against it, though. I don't think whether it's same faith, whether it's different faith, doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. I think we should, if we are claiming that we are actually now focusing on the competencies of candidates, we should focus on the competencies of candidates. And I understand the nuance around it. I understand that you cannot just shrug it off because people have personal stake in their religious belief and they want to feel as if they are adequately represented at the top level of the government. But I don't think at this point, if a person is a good person, is a good person. So I don't think same faith or not same faith would even matter at the end of the day. So I just think that it should be, let's see how it goes there, inshallah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mukhtar Suleiman, for being with us this morning, and we hope to have you another time on the program. And also, of course, to the viewers, thank you very much for staying with us. We'll go on a short break. We'll come back on top of the hour for the continuation of Daybreak on Trust TV. Do stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
Dear residents of our beautiful capital city of Abuja, I know we all desire to have a world-class city with working infrastructure and clean streets. That is why the Federal Capital Territory Administration is investing a lot of resources and manpower to ensure prompt evacuation of refuse from all nooks and crannies of the city. Now, this can only be sustained if all residents play their part by promptly paying their waste collection bills. Encourage everyone around you to be patriotic and pay their bills. The task of keeping Abuja clean is for all of us. Remember, soup way sweet, na money kill out. This message is from the Federal Capital Territory Administration.
Good morning, Nigeria, and thank you for staying with us. It is the top of the hour, and you're still watching Daybreak on Trust TV. We're live at the Federal Capital Territory, and I'm Dashan Husseina Usman. Thank you for joining us.
And I'm Abdulaziz. Thank you for staying with us, and thank you for being with us. And have a, I'm hoping that we will all have a beautiful morning. I will woke up in the in the good side of our bed, and enjoying the day as it unfolds.
All right, with this, we'll move on to the headlines. 9 dead, 10 injured in Abuja road crash.
Lagos building collapse, 2 dead as police order arrest of developer.
Commonwealth gold winner Nwokocha suspended for doping.
Now the details. The Federal Road Safety Corps FRSC said 9 persons have been confirmed dead while 10 others were injured in a fatal crash along Ngoji Abaji Road of the Federal Capital Territory FCT. According to a statement signed by Corps Public Education Officer BC Kazim, the crash involved a Toyota Hiace bus with vehicle registration number KTG 450KQ and Howo Sino truck along Ngoji Abaji Road at about 6:05 a.m. on Saturday. He said the bus was coming from Osun State and heading to Katsina State, but unfortunately crashed into a stationary trailer. According to Kazim, the acting Corps Marshal Dauda Biu said the crashes resulted from dangerous overtaking and eventual loss of control.
Away from that story, emergency responders have recovered 2 dead bodies from the rubble of a building that collapsed in the early hours of Sunday in Lekki, Lagos State. Zonal Coordinator Southwest, National Emergency Management Agency, Ibrahim Farin Loye, who disclosed this Sunday, said the trapped people are located on the 3rd floor of the building. The building was sealed on the 18th February 2021. Meanwhile, police has ordered the arrest of developer responsible for trial and prosecution.
In sports, Nigerian sprinter Nzubechi Grace Nwokocha has been provisionally suspended for the use of banned substances by the Athletics Integrity Unit, AIU. Nwokocha 21 ran the anchor leg in Birmingham last month as Nigeria beats England and Jamaica to take gold. She was part of the winning quartet of Toby Amusan, Favour Offaly, and Ross Chukuma, who won gold in the 4x100 meter relay at the year's Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. The quartet had set a new Africa record of 42.10 seconds to win what was Nigeria's 11th gold medal in Birmingham, and it was a historic moment for the country at the Games. The 21-year-old Nwokocha, a multiple-time national champion over 100 meters, has a personal best time in the 100 meter of 10.97 seconds set at the last World Championship in Eugene, Oregon, USA. She also ran a personal best of 22.44 seconds in the 200 meter relay.
All right, and with that, we'll move on to more stories. Candidates seeking political offices in 2023 must come up with development agenda that will address the needs of the people. At a one-day colloquium held at Mubaya House, a Kano Jiga Professionals Forum expressed a resolve that achieving sustainable development in line with the Sustainable Master Plan in the 2 states will no longer be negotiable. Trust TV correspondent Idris Ibrahim reports.
Organized by Kano and Jigawa Professional Forum, this one-day colloquium drawn its participants from all the political parties across Kano State with the aim to set a 10-year strategic development plan ahead of the 2023 governorship, national and state assemblies elections. According to the forum, many states in northern Nigeria lack the provision of robust and sustainable development agenda to guide incoming administration as roadmap for enhancing successful takeoff. Hence, the need to remind these political party candidates on the expectations of the electorates.
This colloquium is intended, among others, to serve as a veritable platform for collaboratively generating ideas on identifying and agreeing on the critical issues facing the 2 states and their solutions.
Presenters from various professional work streams covering health, education, governance, infrastructure and logistics, technology, legal and regulatory, as well as media and communications, each provided guiding documents by which strategic development could be achieved across Kano states.
One important thing, health is on concurrent list. The federal government should do its bit here. The state government and the local government, there should be harmony and synergy. What we saw during the pandemic, the total disconnect between the federal institution and the state institution. Now, we should harness this relationship to ensure that we have established a proper referral center.
The way we, Mboko, try to reform the system is to say, integrate it into the Western education system. And that's the one thing that the people who patronize it don't want. Because they have a choice. They see a primary school, they take their child instead to a Quranic school. Okay, so my suggestion is talk to them, reform the system, modernize it, don't westernize it.
For the candidates, a forum like this will significantly encourage political office holders in overcoming the socio-economic challenges of their people by providing a sustainable development in all aspects of life.
For me, I will cherish this and the reports that have been given to me. I will make sure that I go through it, and I am urging all the participants for us to please go through these submissions and see the submissions, and by the time what Allah has destined on us happen, we should try and do the best out of it.
At the end of this colloquium, all these political party candidates will be expected to be fully informed about the developmental needs of the people for achieving sustainable development across the states. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Meanwhile, stakeholders in Nigeria's justice system have advocated review of plea bargain that is meant to ensure restorative and quick justice dispensation. They view the section in the Economic and Financial Crime Commission EFCC Act as giving lifeline to corrupt public officers. Respondents told Daily Trust Shafiu Suleiman that the legislation has done more harm than good to Nigeria's fight against corruption. The reports.
The concept of plea bargain, which was borrowed from the United States Criminal Justice Manual into the EFCC Act, is to fast-track adjudication of justice, save cost and time of litigation. But since its application in Nigeria's criminal justice system, experts say it has rather provided a window for corrupt public office holders to shortchange the country and its citizens in mind-boggling corruption scandals.
The latest case of the Accountant General. What financial system in the world will allow somebody to take over 100 billion out of its coffers? In the UK, every pound, a single pound cannot be missing in the British financial system without being detected. But you can see in our country, just a group of not up to 10 people who syndicate themselves as criminals took out over 100 billion in our financial system, and all of them now are being granted plea bargain.
The kind of plea bargain we are seeing in Nigeria is basically to encourage more corruption and more corrupt people to loot the public treasury, because when you steal $10 million through plea bargain, you will just return maybe $1 or $2 million. Then the rest of the money is like clean.
Plea bargain, though alien to Nigeria's laws, creates a lacuna in an effort to tackle the nation's #1 enemy, corruption, and provides a lifeline for those cornering billions of taxpayers' money into private use. But the question is there a remedy for this misnomer?
We have actually been advocating for judicial reform in Nigeria. Administrative justice system needs to be totally overhauled in this country, because it's not serving the interests of Nigeria and Nigerians. It is serving those criminals who have perpetrated crime against humanity in Nigeria.
And that is why they should quicken the process of repealing that section of the of the act, so that people who are found complicit or guilty of offenses like this can be able to face the law and the wrath of the law, and so that other people, especially the younger generation, will see that we are not grandstanding criminals.
Lawyers say the onus now lies with the nation's legislative arm of government to summon the will and take a bold step to repeal the section in the EFCC Act for a genuine and robust anti-corruption crusade. Shapir Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
All right, welcome back. Let's move on to more stories. With the growing population and poor environmental management, almost every part of Makurdi town is home to one indiscriminate refuse dump. The water channels meant for drainages are not spared in this unruly behavior, and it was discovered in most of the dumps visited that the activities mostly happen at night. The report.
The people seen around the refuse dumps in the daytime are scavengers for items, who are not guilty of any crime. Those who spoke to a reporter said the government has not taken any decisive role in evacuating the dump sites. Most of the dumps have been around for decades.
We should not wait for the government to get the environment need for them, because for the sake of your health alone, you are supposed to make sure your environment is kept clean. You make sure your dumps, your wastes are being dumped where they are supposed to be dumped, and make sure there are no empty containers to hold water or stagnant water around.
Those whose houses or places of businesses are impacted negatively by these mountains of refuse say there is little they can do to address the act. This is because government has not provided a policy direction or alternatives to manage them.
And the reason why people dump refuge at odd places is simply because the government have not supplied the necessary facilities for them to be dumping their refuge inside. And most of the times the people are at fault as well, because they go around dumping refuge at night, because they know that in the day people will caution them because of what they have done.
Some of the residents say it is toxic to live close to a refuse dump, as there are quite a number of diseases that can be contacted by air or water pollution emanating from the dumps.
It is hazard to human health, because the people living around these places they dump refuge might end up picking one or two different diseases into their system, especially children that hawks around. Many of these children, they might pick things on this refuge and eat, which is not also good for their health.
Some people have stream as their own source of water to drink. So if these refuse are drawn to these streams, it might lead to people having issues of diarrhea or cholera.
What is worrisome is the fact that in all the sites visited, it appears no community has a plan in place to curtail the menace. Some have accepted the dumps as part of their neighborhood, even as there are no conscious efforts by the government to clear them.
Many Nigerians have the habit of buying drugs across the counter without doctor's prescription. But buying drugs without doctor's prescription is tantamount to risking one's life. Health expert gave this hint in Bauchi while commenting on why people prefer going to pharmacies than hospitals for health challenges. Trust TV's Adamu Imam files in this report.
Dr. Abdulsalam Abdulaziz is a medical doctor, and he says health workers in Nigeria should insist on standards by giving drugs only when prescribed by doctors.
In Nigeria, people have a way of going about getting even controlled drugs out of prescription. So basically what we just perhaps want to advise the health workers is for both pharmaceutical outlets and hospitals, people should strictly work based on prescription, and all controlled drugs should try to be controlled, as the word implies, controlled drugs.
He also explains some reasons why people prefer pharmacy than hospitals in most cases.
Time factor is actually crucial. The patient waiting period sometimes affects patronage in the hospital. So when you go to pharmaceutical outlet, you could easily get prescription with over-the-counter drugs or chemist, you understand? But when you come to the hospital, you would rather wait and follow queue. So I think the patient waiting period, especially when it is long, could affect the patronage.
Ahmed Aliu, a pharmacist, explained how business of selling drugs works and differentiate them with other vendors.
While the pharmacy store only contain drugs, prescribed drugs and even non-prescribed drugs. While when we talking of patent medicine store, they are the local store found around in our local areas. Normally, they are selling drugs, even the non-prescribed drugs.
Meanwhile, Bauchi residents also share their views on the matter.
So for me, it's better to walk into any other chemist and buy my drugs whenever I'm in need of, drugs or medicine. Number two,
going to hospital, to me, is more preferable than going to chemist, in the sense that if you go to hospital, you'll meet an expert that will diagnose, give you the results. Maybe they will take you to lab, test you, find out the result, and tell you the medication.
If somebody goes to the hospital, instead of taking 50 minutes, it's going to take maybe 2 hours. So maybe that is why I prefer going to the chemist than going to the hospitals, as far as I'm concerned.
Health expert added that people have the right of choice on issues affecting them, though not without risks, but doing what is right, especially on health ground, is worthwhile. Adam Imam, Trust TV News, Bauchi.
You're still watching Daybreak on Trust TV. We'll be back after this break.
That's great. You can see it.
Welcome back. And with that, we'll move on to our discussion of the day. The Global and International Terrorism Research Analysis Group, Jihad Analytics, says Nigeria now ranks the second most terrorized country by the Islamic State terrorist group globally. Jihad Analytics specializes in the collation of data on terrorist activities worldwide. According to the data by Jihad Analytics, Iraq came top, while Nigeria and Syria taking second and third positions, respectively. The report is coming against a backdrop of frequent claims by the Nigerian government that terrorists have been degraded to the barest minimum. Let's discuss this, and we have joining us via Zoom from Dutse in Jigawa State, a security expert, and he's a retired military officer and senior lecturer at Bayes University, Dr. Tanko Ahmed. Good morning, Dr. Tanko, and thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
Good morning. Yes, I am a retired person, but I'm not a retired military officer. I'm a fellow of the National War College. Thank you very much for having me this morning.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tanko. Let's quickly go into the discussion. I don't know if you have seen the reports from the Jihad Analytics about the trend of IS, Islamic State attacks around the globe. And this is coming especially after the degrading of their former so-called caliphate, the Islamic State in Syria and Levant. And what is this analytics, I mean, if you look at it at the global level, telling us? What is it telling us in the shift from since the killing of the former leader of the group, and then the dismantling of the former headquarters?
Thank you very much. My main concern when I saw this, the issue of whether I'm aware of it, yes, many of us are aware of this, but my main concern is that is the credibility of this group called the Global and International Terrorist Research Analysis Group. If by the name, you know that their title is over-exaggerated. What is the need of putting global and international in one place? This group has been identified as a forum where information are traded just like that without authenticity. And you can see the report itself is targeting the credibility of our own military forces. That is why it is also after frequent claims. What frequent claims? They are not claims anymore. Things are being aired on social media and everywhere, and we see the way our soldiers and other security agencies are crushing these people. So the issue of this jihadist group that will come out just overnight and place us in second place, I think it's not fair. It is not fair
Tonko,
to
before we discuss
country as a whole.
before we discuss the Nigeria rating, can you hear me, Dr. Tonko? Before we discuss the rating of Nigeria, I want us to look at the shift away from Syria to other places around the world by the terrorist groups.
Yeah, we can do that through your own normal, credible news items that you flash every day, but not through this kind of groups that we just sit down somewhere, you don't even know where they are situated. They cannot decide and place Nigeria, give Nigeria a certain position. What is happening to the global terrorism index, where all the information all over the world, all the trends on terrorism are collated and then redistributed to people, and these things are assessed credibly. But this group just jihad analytics. Let me tell you something about the group. About 10 years ago, the United States Department of Justice set up a very, very powerful panel of people to analyze the forum's activities. They discovered that this forum is even a platform for terrorists, where they pass information, where they use information to demoralize or to divide the people from their government. I am not a government spokesman. In fact, I will blame our own experts, people that are engaged by government, they pay them salary, they work in the Federal Ministry of Information. They should be able to confront this kind of information, recapture it, and give us the fact before you and me start talking about it.
Well, you know,
the
sir, you seem to heavily discuss the issue of the group, which of course is credible. It has its offices in Geneva and has all that. But we are not here to discuss whether it is an authentic platform.
It doesn't matter.
Let's discuss the substance. And my question, which you have not yet addressed, is whether the collapse of the Islamic State, what is the terrorism pattern after the collapse of the Islamic State, especially in sub-Saharan Africa? What is it telling us? What is this shift telling us as Africans, as Nigerians, and also, of course, at the global level?
Okay, what is telling us is a very, very natural trend that everybody can observe. You don't even need experts to tell you. Let's say you go with insecticide to attack a fire ant here. While you kill the real fire ants, many of them, they will escape. And some of these things will climb over your trousers and bite you in places where you will scream louder than when you are fighting them. So this is a natural trend. They'll keep on fighting, and our forces will keep on clamping on them until they cannot fight again.
Okay, Doctor, now in as much as you don't agree with this particular index, in 2021, Afghanistan was actually ranked first, with a score of 9.11 points, and Nigeria ranked 6th on the Global Terrorism Index. Now, whether you like it or not, a lot of people seem to actually take this particular index into consideration. So what is the implication of this for the future of Nigeria?
The implication of this is the confusion in the understanding of the language of statistics. I am still telling you that our troops are doing well, so why don't we collect the actual facts of what is on the ground now to counter and discuss this? We have been seeing it. I have been seeing it from your own news news item. It is not false that our troops have been taking over in the last few months. My issue here is that statistics should not come in now to disrupt the way we think. Right now at this level, we need a stage where government now will water down security responsibility and participation to the people on the ground. It is only when we do that that these terrorists can even be clipped where they are before they even start what they are doing. And besides, also, I would like to call your attention to these things. What are these people terming as terrorist attacks? Is it banditry? Is it robbery? Is it kidnapping? Still in Nigeria here, we have not agreed on what is terrorism. In America today, the terrorist attacks are different because people have already categorized it. We have not categorized our own, or at the least we have not agreed on the basis of categorization.
So talking about categorization, where is the problem of this categorization coming from? Because it seems that even the government, including the security, the military, for example, in most of their statements, they say, for example, bandit terrorists in one term. So in one line, what does it mean? Why is this confusion coming?
The confusion is coming because some people in charge of information management industry are not doing their job. Specifically, I mentioned ministries like the Federal Ministry of Information with all its hold of agencies. What about the National Orientation Agency? If we are able to mobilize our people, this kind of story will be different. In America today, if there is attack, whether it's for street or house or anything, within 24 hours, they will tell you that whether it's a terrorist attack and by who. Because people and the government are working with the security agencies. Here is just a confusing ground.
Okay, Doctor, while the troops are actually doing so much to bring an end to terrorism, there's still pockets of attacks, here and there. So as a security expert, are there contexts we aren't thinking about, on how to prevent terrorism down the road?
Yeah, how to prevent terrorism down the road, I have already started explaining. Now, security responsibility and participation will have to be watered down to the level of the people. Last time I spoke on this kind of issue, I gave an example to fighting COVID-19. By just profiling a disease, bringing in just 3 steps on how to deal with it, the disease was checked, and hundreds of millions of people are protected in this country. So it's the same thing now. We need security to be permeated or cascaded down to the ordinary citizen, some kind of a security ecosystem. Against the structure we have now, we are calling security architecture. It's not only for the military, it's not only for the police, it's not only for government. It is for everybody, it is for you, it is for me. Until we level up that is down the road that you ask me, we will still be seeing this kind of pockets of responses.
Okay, so now looking at some of these things, like for example, we've been fighting the insurgency, this terrorism, especially from the northeast, for over 12 years now, and it seems intractable. What are the missing gaps? What are the missing links?
The missing links is the disconnection between government agencies and the people on the ground. Very simple. That is the missing link. Once you match this, any terrorist, any intent of terrorism can be clipped where it stands. But for now, what do we do? If information like this, scary statistics come in, everybody goes in there, we swallow it, hook, line, and sinker.
Okay, well, it's just recently that we're beginning to see, you know, the efforts of, you know, the troops against the banditry and terrorism actually, you know, play out or even work in their favor. Why do you think it took this long for them to, you know, be able to put in so much effort to tackle, you know, terrorism?
Well, war or conflict is not a hard game where you just go in there, select your cards, the other person will get defeated. No. War, when you go into it, especially asymmetric war, the type we have now, you have to go in there, grow in with it, be part of it, to fight with it. That is how it. There are crises like this that used to take over hundreds of years in the past.
Okay, Doctor, so what about the role of the community itself? Because, you know, the community actually plays a huge role when it comes to tackling terrorism. What role do they have to play in addressing this issue, and how can they be involved?
Usually, every security agency has its own way of giving directly to the community. Let me start by even to give you an example with the current community police program. This thing has been on the ground for a very, very long time. Once you affect this thing, the first advantage you are going to get is to establish kind of credible information on threats. Not a threat alert. No, real threats. Let's say you share out phone text, people that just send from the local police station to the DPO or other thing instantly. If there are mobile patrol to there, or even the villagers themselves. Now we teach our own relations in the village on how not to process everybody that drops in. At least you should observe who comes in there and out, so that if something happens there, when we go, there is some information we collect from them. And also this information we are talking about, you have to teach people the way they will give you information, pure information, not information that has been diluted in rhetorics and other things. All these things you teach people to be able to do it. The way the Ministry of Health taught us just 3 things to fight the deadly conflict, which was worse than terrorism. Social distance, we were locked out in our houses, the face masks, and then other basic things. And then thinking, the same thing if you can profile terrorism from other, profile it away from other crime, teach the people what they should look for, teach them what to do immediately, and then teach them how to report. You will see the end of this thing. And naturally, this thing is taking place now because everybody wants to survive.
Well, in the past month, we've seen activities of terrorists from their main domain of maybe the northeast into places like Kogi, Taraba, and even Abuja. How do we ensure that we have not opened, the country did not open, or these people are not allowed to open another frontier of a theater of war away from the northeast?
Well, as we are addressing the general public, I will still come back to my former, the last example I've given. If you are attacking a hill or a hole of fire ants with, let's say, a can of shelters, they will go out. Maybe you kill thousands and hundreds of thousands of them inside the hole. But then if 2 of them only will climb up your trouser, you will scream in such a way that everybody will know that you are running to hell. It's the same thing with permeated security threats like this. They are not made up of some kind of smart, physically organized body. No, but the idea is the one that is spreading. And information managers should be able to curtail ideas in such a way that people, if they commit this kind of act, they know what is going to happen to them. And to some extent, we even go to the extreme. It's not an issue of taking the law into your own hands. For example, now I will not allow a single person to harm me or my family. Yeah. When you come to harm me in my house, of course, I will try my best. If you come with overwhelming distance, you go. I will follow you until the end of time or the end of the world, and I will get you. And this is the kind of thinking everybody is supposed to be doing. If you do that, let the terrorists run to the police and military barracks to seek for justice.
But we are talking of attacks in places like maybe the Kuje prison and jailbreak, or attack on military checkpoints near Abuja, and also police stations and all that Islamic State claimed it is responsible for. And that's the main concern now.
Yeah. This question of attack is still under investigation, but from the immediate information that everybody is getting, there were people connived with them, and these people were arrested. This thing will have to be continued over and over again. We have to do it until we get it correctly. That is why you will have to be recruiting people over retraining. Otherwise, the way all this kind of thing, the day it closes down, then we don't have a country to run. It's all part of the hazards of running a modern state, living in a modern state, living in capitals like Abuja, living having prison staff or other people that connive with them. So it's all part of the game.
All right, Doctor, let's talk about prosecution of these terrorists themselves, because some quarters are actually of the opinion that, they don't get the proportionate and measured, punishment that they should. Do you think terrorists are prosecuted in adherence to the rule of law?
Okay, instead of using the word prosecution, I would like to add delivery of justice. Now, if you tell a person to come out, he refuses to come out of a forest and they keep on attacking people, you tell people to deliver justice to them where they are. The ones that you catch, we have problem of backlog of cases in our courts. A lot of people have made some very reasonable suggestion that we should have special courts for this. The Federal Road Safety is now controlling traffic offense by just simply issuing a test form and the amount of money you are going to pay. They don't need courts, they don't know anything. So there are a lot of things. And besides, also, not only the government, we should also come out to bring out, we should turn the fight against terrorism into big business. People that can do this should disturb security companies, some of them to track their movements, some of them to even go set in, or if government set out money as a prize, bounty hunters come out, or they are fetch them or alive and be comfortable with not money in your pocket.
Okay. And so now you have spoken partly about the issue of capacity. Do you think in terms of capacity, equipment, and men on ground, the boots on ground, we are capable of tackling these multifaceted security challenges the country is facing?
Yeah, we are capable of doing it even before some of the equipment came in. But one of the vulnerability we have is the disconnection between the people and the government of these operations. Once we link up or close down this disconnection, you will see wonders. Because you will even have terrorists being attacked in their own family home. After all, we have some communities where people have taken it on themselves to solve this strife. We had of communities where fathers turn over their own children so that they will save their own family from other members of the community. This thing should be, there are things we should start thinking and acting outside the box. Or sometimes even build our own box to deal with specific problems that is facing us.
All right, Doctor, earlier you talked about, bounty hunters and personnel working with security outfits, joining in, tackling the insecurity menace in Nigeria. But what about, cooperating and working with international partners? Should this be on the table?
Well, terrorism is not a local problem. Terrorism is an international problem. Terrorism is a global problem where a small part of what is happening in one end of the world can affect us here. What we do, for example, in the university, to teach students how they could calculate public opinion or calculate rising threats to security or something like that, we use what we call the butterfly effect. Butterfly effect is the same principle used by the weatherman to calculate and tell you that it is going to be sunny in this area, the way I'm seeing it here now, that it's not going to be raining. You can actually to people, they can participate. If you do that, you can, these people are human beings like us. And a lot of them, they don't even want to go into this kind of thing. They will tell you that that is the only ideology, that is the only way they think they can participate in a society where they feel like they are outcasts.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Tonko Ahmed, for joining us this morning. And we've been talking to Dr. Tonko Ahmed, fellow War College and a senior lecturer at Bayes University in Abuja, who joined us virtually from Duse, the Jigawa State capital. We hope to have you on another time on this program. So we'll be on a quick break, and when we come back, the show continues.
All right, you're still watching Daybreak on Trust TV. The leadership crisis within the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, has prevented the party from becoming a national political party. Now formed almost 20 years ago, APGA has been restricted to only one state in the southeast, which is Anambra State. In a chat with Trust TV, APGA National Chairman Edozie Njoku spoke on the Supreme Court judgment that validated his position and the need for Governor Soludo to intervene to resolve problems facing the party ahead of the 2023 elections.
The Supreme Court has ruled in my favor a while ago. The thing is that I don't know whether people really have understood the case and what is at play at the moment. An important fact was that on 19th of May, 2019, APGA had two parallel conventions. One was done in Owerri, another one was done in Awka at the same time. So I could never have been in Awka, and Oye could not have been in Owerri. Now, after the whole thing, cutting the story short, Supreme Court made the appeal court first of all made a ruling, which they dismissed the case in which I was removed in Jigawa. I tried to join them, but politically I couldn't join. That's another story. Politically I couldn't join because in the judgment, the judges now said I ought to have been joined on page 73 of their judgment, but that the case has been dismissed as forum shopping. The case now went up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court made it clear that there was no need for joiner, that that case was a rubbish case, that it was dismissed and thrown out, and cost was made on Judo Kekedem for removing me. One of the judges, Lawal, made it clear in his judgment that APGA convention everything was done in Owerri. That was the center of everything about APGA. Salowa, another judge, they made it also clear that when such a mischief has been done, the only thing that should be done is reverting back to the status quo, to the positions which we were before these mischievous politicians, which was before Judo Keke and his cohort tried to or suspended me at Jigawa. I was reinstalled back. Then the lead judge made it clear and told us that the dispute was between the two, who was going to be acting chairman on the basis that they had suspended me. But that they should remember that this sort of cases has been coming up and it's not justiciable, that it's an internal affair that they cannot remove me. And my name was mentioned there as the chairman. Now, something funny took place, which is that, I'm so sorry. Something funny took place, which happened to be that somehow or another, our name appeared at the front page of the judgment. It had nothing to do with the judgment itself. The judgment itself was very clear and very unambiguous, but our name appeared on the front page. We applied for these judgments legally through the chief registrar. The chief registrar directed to the director of legal, and the registrar gave us these judgments. A report came out, something came out from some man in legal. There was no letter, there was not on the Supreme Court letterhead or anything, so I'm not going to comment on it. But he also agreed that Victor Ye is not the national chairman because the convention of APGA took place in Owerri. But at the bottom of it, he made mention to a part of that I was not a respondent. And there was no time I've ever claimed I was a respondent. So if he has made that statement, we're making moves to find out from the Supreme Court how my name got there. Because if you look deep into it, that's the only way you could model up that judgment. The judgment was so clear. So are you sure? If you notice, Oye has been crying foul even before we got those 4 judgments. Are you sure that some things have not been done just to bring confusion to the judgment? A lot has got to be desired about it, but we are pushing on. The question we are now asking INEC is that a lot has got to be desired about why is it that INEC are still recognizing Oye? Why is it that INEC are trying to make APGA candidate-less? If those candidates they have taken from Oye are the candidates on the list of APGA, and his executive and himself have never been to or were not in Owerri, it's an effort in futility. It's the governor who is propping him up, Governor Soludo. I don't know why. So I advise Soludo to really find a way very quickly for us to come to the table and get peace in line so that APGA candidates can start doing something. All of them, everyone is just sitting down and confused. They are confused. He's the governor of the state. There's something we talk about politics. When you're in election, you are PDP, APC. As soon as you win, you are a governor of all. Soludo is the governor of APGA. He should rise to that level. What the rest of the Southeasters are saying that we have a special love for the party. At least we are meant to be 5 brothers. Let's move it out of. You people have only been able to keep one governor. You got one and he ran away. So you need to expand the party. Then we also need to expand to the whole of Nigeria. It's a lovely party with a lovely logo. So I don't see why we should restrict it to an Oye kind of a thing. No, it shouldn't be like that.
All right, that was an interview with APGA National Chairman Edozie Njoku. Some would actually say that, the crisis rocking APGA, is cannot be compared to, when compared to APC and PDP.
No, of course, it's child's play, exactly.
All right, so with this, we've come to the end of Daybreak on Trust TV. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, same station. I'm Dasha and Husseina Usman. Thank you so much and have yourselves a wonderful week ahead.
Thank you very much for joining us. And of course, do remember to also follow us on our social media channels on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and other platforms to stay tuned with Trust TV. And of course, with also your favorite morning show, Daybreak. And have a good day. Have a beautiful September. Do stay with us. My name is Abdulaziz.